You know the feeling, that buzz of anticipation before a big Apple announcement? The lights dim, the CEO walks onto the stage, and the world holds its breath, waiting for the next big revolution. But in recent years, that anticipation has ended with a strange sensation, a silent question hanging in the air. Is that all? Or more of the same again? A slightly better camera, a slightly faster processor, a slightly smaller notch. Each year, the magic seems a little more distant, replaced by an almost boring familiarity. But what if this more of the same feeling isn't a sign of failure? What if it's not laziness or a lack of ideas? What if, in fact, it's one of the most brilliant and coldly calculated business strategies in tech history? The truth behind the iPhone's supposed stagnation is far more complex than a simple lack of innovation, and it tells us something very important. Is Apple done? That's what we'll talk about in this video. There was a time not long ago when the word iPhone was synonymous with revolution. In 2007, Steve Jobs took the stage and didn't just present a phone. He revealed a portal to the future. An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator, all in one device. It was magic. Each new release that followed seemed like a historic event. The iPhone 3G gave us the App Store, creating an entirely new economy overnight. The iPhone 4, with its glass and steel design and retina display, seemed like an artifact from a distant future. This was the golden age. It was the era of one more thing, Jobs' iconic phrase that promised one last surprise, one last innovation that would change everything again. Apple didn't sell products. It sold astonishment. It sold the feeling that you were holding a piece of tomorrow in your hands. This was the promise, the pact between Apple and its followers. But this golden age wouldn't last forever, and the change, when it came, was silent, calculated, and would forever transform what it meant to own an iPhone. After Steve Jobs' passing, Apple moved into the hands of Tim Cook. It's crucial to understand that this isn't a story about a good or bad successor. It's the story of a fundamental shift in philosophy. Jobs was an inventor, a visionary obsessed with the product, willing to cannibalize his own creations in search of the next big revolution. Cook, on the other hand, is a supply chain master, a genius of logistics and optimization. Where Jobs saw art and engineering, Cook saw efficiency and profit margins. The question at Apple stopped being, what impossible thing can we create, and slowly transformed into how can we sell more units more efficiently. The focus shifted from revolution to refinement, from shocking the world to satisfying Wall Street. The iPhone stopped being an artist's blank canvas and became the most profitable product in history. And to keep it that way, it needed predictability, annual cycles, and absolute control over the process. And this new philosophy, focused on maximizing profit from an already mature product, opened the door to one of the most controversial and lucrative strategies in the tech world. That's when the public started to feel something strange. Their iPhone, which was 1 or 2 years old, suddenly seemed slower. The battery no longer lasted all day, especially after a new iOS update. Coincidence? Apple said yes. But in 2017, the truth came out. In a scandal that became known as Batterygate. It was revealed that Apple was in fact secretly throttling the performance of older iPhones. The official justification was noble, to protect components from aging batteries and prevent unexpected shutdowns. But for millions of users, the revelation sounded like a betrayal. It seemed like confirmation of a long-held suspicion, planned obsolescence, the idea that your device was designed to become obsolete, not due to breakage, but due to performance, subtly pushing you towards the next model. Apple was sued and paid millions in settlements, but the distrust remained. And this strategy wasn't limited to software. Small but significant removals began. First, the headphone jack, then the charger and headphones that came in the box. The excuse was always the environment, a noble cause that also conveniently saved millions in production and shipping costs, and created a new market for separately sold accessories. Each year, the new iPhone brought incremental improvements, just enough to make the previous year's model seem dated, but rarely enough to justify a revolutionary leap. It was a perfectly tuned profit machine. But the genius of the plan wasn't just in making your old device seem obsolete, it was in making the idea of leaving the Apple world almost unthinkable.
Herein lies Apple's true secret weapon, its most brilliant and, for some, most imprisoning strategy, the ecosystem. It's not just about the iPhone hardware, it's about iMessage, iCloud, AirDrop, FaceTime, the Apple Watch that only works with an iPhone, the AirPods that connect instantly. Apple didn't build a product, it built a digital fortress with high walls and an incredibly beautiful and comfortable inner garden.
It's a golden cage.
Inside it, everything works perfectly. Your photos magically appear on your Mac. You can copy text on your phone and paste it on your laptop, and your messages to other iPhone users are blue, fast, and full of effects.
But try to leave. Try sending a message to an Android friend. Suddenly, you're the green bubble. Your messages are slow, the quality of photos and videos is horrible, and you're left out of iMessage groups. This color differentiation, blue versus green, seems trivial, but it's an incredibly powerful social pressure weapon, especially among younger people. Leaving Apple isn't just a technological choice. It's a choice that can socially isolate you. Your investments in iTunes movies, your iCloud backups, your Apple Music playlists, everything works to keep you locked in. This convenience is the bait. The difficulty of leaving is the trap. And while Apple was perfecting the walls of its fortress, the world outside didn't stand still. And it started doing things the iPhone simply didn't do. While Apple focused on refining its successful formula and strengthening its ecosystem, the competition, free from the shackles of having the world's most profitable product to protect, began to dare. Samsung, its eternal rival, invested billions in a technology that seemed like science fiction: foldable screens. It launched the Galaxy Fold, a device full of initial problems, but one that represented a real leap, a new smartphone form factor. Today, foldables are an established category, while Apple still has none on the market. Chinese companies like Xiaomi and Oppo introduced charging technologies that take a phone from 0 to 100% in under 20 minutes, while the iPhone still takes hours for a full charge. Google, with its Pixel phones, used artificial intelligence to create computational photography that, in many aspects, surpassed Apple's, achieving software feats that hardware alone couldn't. Long-range optical cameras with 10x optical zoom, screens with super high refresh rates, notchless designs. The list of innovations that arrived first on Android is long. Apple stopped being the company that dictated trends and became a cautious follower. It observes, waits for the technology to mature and be validated by others, and then implements it in its own product, polished and with brilliant marketing, as if it had been the first to think of it. This boldness from the competition began to expose the first cracks in Apple's armor. But the biggest threats wouldn't come from other phones. They would come from governments and courts. For years, Apple's control over its empire was absolute. But every empire eventually faces external challenges. The first big crack in the wall came from the European Union. Tired of the mountain of electronic waste created by different types of chargers, European regulators decreed a law. By the end of 2024, all new smartphones sold in the region must use a standard connector, USB-C. For any other company, this was a formality. For Apple, it was a devastating blow. The Lightning connector wasn't just a cable. It was an ecosystem of licensed accessories that generated billions of dollars. Being forced to abandon its proprietary standard was a humiliating loss of control. Almost simultaneously, another battle erupted, this time in the United States. Epic Games, creator of Fortnite, sued Apple, accusing it of monopolistic practices with its App Store. The lawsuit exposed the store's inner workings to the world. The 30% fee charged on all transactions, the rigid rules that prevented developers from offering alternative payment methods. Although Apple won on most counts, the lawsuit tarnished its image and sparked a global debate about the power of big tech. The empire no longer seemed so invincible. With the castle under attack from outside, a question began to arise from within. Where is all of Apple's creative energy and billions of dollars in research and development going? And the answer might not be in your pocket. This brings us to the most fascinating and recent theory about the iPhone. What if the iPhone is no longer being designed to be the vanguard of technology? What if its role within Apple has changed? In 2023, Apple finally revealed its next big bet, the Apple Vision Pro, a spatial computer, a mixed reality device that costs the price of a popular car. The development of the Vision Pro cost billions of dollars and took almost a decade, involving the company's best engineers and designers. At the same time, Apple is investing astronomical sums in artificial intelligence, racing to catch up with rivals like Google and OpenAI. And what finances all this? The iPhone. The theory is that the iPhone has become Apple's cash cow, an incredibly popular, stable, and profitable product that no longer needs annual revolutions. It just needs to be good enough. Good enough to keep users locked into the ecosystem, good enough to generate a colossal cash flow that can then be used to fund the true innovations, the risky projects that may or may not define the future of computing. In this view, the iPhone's stagnation is not a failure. It's a deliberate sacrifice. The iPhone is being kept in a state of slow and controlled evolution so that Apple's true future can be built elsewhere. It has become the reliable foundation, not the pinnacle of innovation. So, will the iPhone always be more of the same?
The answer is much more complicated than a simple yes. What we're witnessing isn't the death of Apple's innovation, but perhaps its migration. The iPhone, the object that once defined the future, has become a victim of its own monumental success. It has evolved from a revolutionary artifact to a digital fortress, the golden cage that keeps millions of users captive through a brilliant ecosystem. It is transformed into an optimized profit machine, with controversial strategies like planned obsolescence ensuring a constant cycle of upgrades. And now, it may have accepted its new role as the powerful and predictable cash cow, funding Apple's true and risky ambitions in mixed reality and artificial intelligence. The feeling that that's all there is you get with each release isn't your imagination. It's the result of a series of cold, calculated corporate decisions that prioritize stability and profit over risk and revolution. The initial pact has been broken. Apple no longer sells astonishment every year. It sells familiarity. And now the final question isn't for Apple, but for you. Are you comfortable within the high, secure walls of the golden cage, enjoying the perfection of the ecosystem? Or does a part of you still long for the next big revolution, no matter where it comes from? We don't know about that, but we do know the next one might have the same specs as the last. If you're having trouble choosing an iPhone for your life, I recommend watching this video that's popping up for you. I promise it'll be super helpful. Big hug, see ya.